What's up, YTPC? This is DSG Pipe Smoker with another pipe smoking video, and today I am reviewing Peterson's Irish Flake. This is some very potent stuff. Before I go too much further, let me get into the tin description since I just so happen to have saved the tin. A full-bodied blend made of equal proportions of air-cured, flue-cured, and dark-fired, referring to the components of the tobacco being dark-fired Kentucky, Burley, and Virginia. True to the pure, unspoilt tobacco taste. I thought I skipped a sentence there, but I didn't. It's a very short paragraph. Recommended for the experienced pipe smoker. Yep, that's pretty accurate, alright. It's about the most accurate you're gonna get out of a tin description. Doesn't tell you exactly what the components are, but it gives you a pretty good idea. Well, we can determine, what dark-fired is. It's dark-fired Kentucky. There's not really a whole lot of other dark-fired blends. Maybe a lot of Kia, but I think that they would have specified that. But anyway, yeah, very potent stuff. But before I get into that, I did manage to save a short little video of the presentation of the tin because I was very impressed, not just with the appearance of this tin on the outside, but also the inside and how they packaged it. So if you give me a minute, let me show you that video, and we'll be back in just a minute. So I just opened this Irish Flake. If you're watching this, I'm doing the review on it. And when I opened it, I realized I should probably record this right now, just as I'm opening it, because I don't think I'm going to be able to show you this, while I'm doing the review. But this is how the tin comes. It's a relatively small tin. I should be able to keep one of these for the review, but if we pop open the tin, this is what you get. It's the Thinking Man from Peterson. Looks like a gold little sticker on it. And this is what happens when you cut your nails too short. Peel that back. There's the tobacco. Looks an awful lot like something... Oh no, actually these flakes are pretty wide. So that should be interesting, but this is my first opening of this tin. Again, if you're watching this, I'm doing the review for this tobacco, and I figured it would be a good idea to record me opening the tin for the first time so you can see how it's packaged. Okay, so what I was alluding to in that video when I said it looked a lot like something, or I was alluding to what I thought it was, it reminded me of. It reminded me a lot of the HH Dark-Fired Kentucky line, the old Dark-Fired and the Bold Kentucky. But as you saw in the video I did of the tin and the tobacco in the tin, they're a lot wider. The HH line tends to be about the same thickness, but just a hair narrower. As far as aroma goes, I get a lot of damp earthiness and a little bit of smokiness as well, but it's a sweet kind of smokiness. But mostly a damp earth, which I find to be typical of most dark-fired Kentuckys. They usually have kind of a damp earth or a mustiness to them. Some Burleys will have that too. But that's the tin description, the aroma, and the appearance. Let's talk smoking mechanics. These flakes come fairly wet. That's common of most pressed tobaccos. The way I prepared this was I rolled it out. I took out a proportion that was about what I needed for my tolerance, but, I rubbed out the tobacco that I used and let it sit out for about 20 to 30 minutes. Once you get it dried out, it will pack fairly easily. In fact, those flakes will actually pack into an average-sized bowl, but unless you have the nicotine tolerance to handle this tobacco, I would advise against doing that. But anyway, once you do get it dried out, and like I said, it's ready to go, whether you decide to fold and stuff it, which you could definitely do with this tobacco. Again, you're going to have to proportion it to the pipes that you intend on using it for or what you can handle. I chose to rub it out as I do most of my pressed tobaccos. But once you do all that, packs fairly easily. Takes a little bit to light. The true light needed quite a bit, or not the true light, the charring light needed quite a bit before it was charred enough to start the true light. And once I got the true light going, and I started smoking the tobacco, I found that unless I kept with it, unless I continued to puff on it, to the point that the pipe got kind of hot, it wouldn't stay lit. So it will go out if you're, keeping a pretty normal pace. If you just draw and put it down, it will go out eventually and you'll have to relight it. The ash accumulation was fairly heavy on this blend as well. It is with most heavy dark fire Kentucky blends, at least what I've noticed. So you will have to de-ash it, but it relights pretty good. That being said, it does accumulate a little bit of moisture towards the bottom, so having a pipe cleaner handy is necessary, even in a smaller bowl. That being said, it's a very strong tobacco. It is full-bodied, very full-bodied, probably more full-bodied even than H.H. Bolt Kentucky, and up until the review of this tobacco, that was the fullest bodied dark fire Kentucky blend I had ever had. So that says quite a bit. It's also full flavor, and as I've been hinting at this whole time, there's a hell of a lot of nicotine to this tobacco. More nicotine in any other pipe tobacco that I've ever had. I smoked this at first in my Dagner P5 Devil Ants, which, to be honest, flavor-wise produced the best smoke. I'll get into pipes later, but yeah, after smoking it, actually, even before I finished, I started to notice just being a little bit lightheaded, a little bit woozy. I had had something to eat prior to. I knew what I was getting into, but man, afterwards, trying to go to bed after that, I couldn't do it. I didn't necessarily get to the point of throwing up, but I'd never had a tobacco that kept me up all night because the nicotine was so high. I mean, this tobacco had me, waking up, rolling all around in bed, head spinning, kind of like I was hungover, but I hadn't been drunk. So, that's something to look forward to, and that's in a pipe the size of my P5 Devil Ants. So yeah, very, very high nicotine. I consider myself to be average. Definitely not light. I can handle a few of the heavier blends. Like I said, Bolt Kentucky from the HH line, but man, this takes it to a whole nother level as far as nicotine goes. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. But anyway, no tongue bite, surprisingly enough. None whatsoever. I could go back to smoking other blends the next day. Not an issue. Didn't need to do any tongue bite remedies. I was good to go in that regard. This was also a very smooth tobacco, which kind of surprised me, being what it is. It's not the smoothest tobacco I've ever had, but for a dark fire Kentucky, it was fairly smooth. Um, Additionally, being what it was, it produced a very high volume, a very high, dense and thick, chewy smoke, which I find to be very pleasant in pipe tobacco. But moving on from there, let's talk pipe preferences. Now, I had mentioned that my P5 Devil Ant smoked it the best, and it does. However, it's something that, I mean, if I absolutely had to, I could smoke this blend in that pipe, but, you know, if I want to get some sleep that night, or if I don't want to call in sick for work, I personally, this is because of my own tolerance to nicotine, this size pipe. This is a Meerschaum Taster pipe. To give you an idea on how small that is, this is a Sharpie. Okay. Another example. I could probably get away with smoking this, or this Dr. Graybo pipe. Little bit taller than the Taster, okay? But that's about what I can tolerate. If you can handle this blend in a bigger bowl, that's probably what it's going to be best suited in. Again, this is for experienced pipe smokers, or at the very, very least, somebody who has a very high nicotine tolerance, which tends to be people who have, you know, been exposed to tobacco in general. You know, a lot of people who come from cigarette smoking tend to have a very high nicotine tolerance, so those individuals can probably handle this blend in a larger bowl. And if you can, I would recommend that. Just, that's kind of the direction this blend seems to be going, is where I'm getting at with that. As far as the flavor goes, to me, it was a mesquite smokiness with a spiciness added to it that kind of went hand in hand as you drew it in through the draw. Slightly woody, a lot of smokiness still, not as much of the spiciness, but it did have a little bit of dark earth to it. And on the retrohale, it was very spicy. And it continues like this towards the bottom of the bowl. And it's not until towards the bottom of the bowl that I really started to notice some sweetness or some nuttiness. Some sort of glimmer of, you know, either the Virginias or the Burley. The dark-fired Kentucky in this blend is very potent, and it definitely overpowers those other two components. So, with that being said, here are my final thoughts. Again, unless you have a very high nicotine tolerance, I would not recommend smoking this in anything larger than the pipes that I suggested. This is a very, very potent tobacco. I would not recommend it if it's your first dark-fired Kentucky blend. I would first try and procure Three Nuns, which I'm starting to get familiar with. Or like Dark Strong Kentucky's another good one. And then just sort of baby step it from there. Try the HH line. You know, try... Oh, did I bring it? 1 second. I don't know why I'm playing with that cone. I'm going to put that away. Before you try that blend, try 1792 Flake. And then from there, maybe, just maybe try the Irish Flake from Peterson. But that is some very, very potent stuff. If you're going to try it, treat it with the utmost respect. It's a shame because I really like the flavor profile of this blend. I like the fact that it comes in flake form. I find that a lot of the tobaccos that I personally enjoy tend to come in some sort of pressed form. I really like the fact that it doesn't bite at all. I like the very thick, chewy smoke that comes with it. And like I said, just that deep, dark-fired Kentucky taste. This one's a little bit on the spicier side, like I said, or at least I noticed it to be a little bit more spicy. If it wasn't so high in nicotine, it would be right up there with the HH line.